at national, regional, and sub-regional levels. So back to the webinar, we will explore the recent elections that has delivered surprising results, defying many expectations and predictions. And with over 640 million votes cast, the recent elections has shown major changes in how people are voting. So at this webinar today, we aim to delve into the surprising outcomes and what they mean for the future of Indian democracy. We will look at the factors that influence voter decisions, the shifting political landscape, and the broader implications for democratization in India and the region. We are honored to have a distinguished panel of experts with us today who will provide their observations of the election results. Our moderator for the event is Dr. Kaustav Bandyopadhyay, who will set the context for our discussion and introduce our panel of experts. Dr. Kaustav is ADN's Vice Chair, Co-Coordinator of Asia Democracy Research Network, and Director Participatory Research in Asia. For nearly 3 decades, Kaustav has been championing citizen participation and social accountability in democratic governance. He has led several innovative participatory research initiatives to strengthen participatory urban governance, civil society ecosystems, and organization development in nonprofits in India and several other Asian countries. He has authored several books, articles, manuals, and monographs. So, Dr. Kaustav, I'm handing over the discussion to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Savra. It's a terrific privilege to be a moderator for today's conversation with our esteemed panelists, our ADN and ADRN colleagues, and all of you. Welcome again to this conversation. Friends, the Indian Grand Finale 2024 is over. Mr. Narendra Modi is sworn in as the Prime Minister for the 3rd time in a row, a rare feat after Sri Jawaharlal Nehru. Along with him, 72 ministers in the cabinet also took oath to their offices on Sunday evening. However, the 2024 election results were not very kind to him and to BJP, unlike in 2024 and 2019 elections. This time, he desperately needed at least 2 NDA partners, National Democratic Alliance partners, Telugu Desam Party in Andhra Pradesh with 16 seats, and Janata Dal United in Bihar with 12 seats to secure a simple majority. The Bharatiya Janata Party, under Mr. Modi's custodial leadership, fell short of the majority, securing only 240 seats, which is 63 seats less than 2019 elections and far short of 370 seats. 370 is the magic number which was to celebrate the repeal of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, if you recall. Despite the hype created by Indian media, Ab ki baar 400 par, this time over 400 seats, before the election and after the election, through a series of slavish, appeasing, motivated, and ill-informed exit polls, the NDA secured only 293 seats, just 21 seats to cross the majority in the parliament. On the other hand, Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance, India Alliance in short, led by Indian National Congress, has secured 234 seats, an increase of a staggering 115 seats. And INC secured 99 seats, and other India partners, particularly Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh with 37 seats, All India Trinamool Congress in West Bengal with 29 seats, DMK in Tamil Nadu with 22 seats, Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray Group 9 seats, and National Congress Party Sharad Pawar Group 8 seats. Altogether, they put up a spectacular performance. Friends, in this election, the Indians witnessed most probably the worst ever polarizing campaign of BJP along the line of religion. Apart from the self-aggrandizing doling out of Modi's guarantee, every issue was framed in Hindu-Muslim binary. and the Muslims were referred to as infiltrators and those who have more children, which, by the way, was not appreciated even by many ardent BJP supporters and RSS leadership. You must have heard what Mohan Bhagwat had to say about it, all at the cost of the dignity of the Prime Minister's office. On the other hand, the India Alliance, led by INC, raised the issues of unemployment and joblessness, inflation, and several other misgovernance of the BJP regime. They brought the issues related to social justice, the sanctity of the Indian constitution, and the ostensible crisis to democracy and plurality cherished by most Indians. Friends, today we have with us four eminent panelists who have been analyzing Indian politics over decades, and more specifically, the Lok Sabha election 2024. We'll engage in a deeper conversation on what these results tell us about voters' choices and preferences, what are the implications going forward in terms of the health of Indian democracy, particularly the independence of democratic institution, civic space, and media freedom. Let me introduce our panelists briefly, one by one. You will find more detailed bios of each panelist in the chat room. Please read them at your leisure. So our first panelist is Dr. Vipul Mudgal. Dr. Vipul is the Director and Chief Executive of Common Cause. Common Cause has been known for its high-impact public interest litigation in the electoral bond and other cases. Earlier, Dr. Mudgal was a resident editor at the Hindustan Times in Jaipur and Lucknow, a South Asian editor at Asia Times in Bangkok, and BBC journalist in London and New Delhi. Dr. Vipul, it's a pleasure to have you in this conversation. The second panelist, Meena Menon. Meena is working president of the Working People's Coalition, a nationwide network of organizations working with informal laborers in India. She was India country coordinator with the Asia Policy Group at the Focus on the Global South and senior consultant with Action Aid. Pleasure to have you with us, Meena. Our third panelist is Ruhi Tiwari. Ruhi is a journalist with 18 years of experience writing about politics, policy, and the intersections of the two in leading media houses like the Indian Express, Mint, The Print. She is currently writing her first book, tentatively titled What Women Want, which delves into the minds of the women voter in India. Congratulations in advance, Ruhi, for your new book, and pleasure to have you with us today. And our fourth panelist is Dr. Niranjan Sahu. Niranjan is a senior fellow at Observer Research Foundation, a leading think tank based in New Delhi. He leads ORF studies and programs on democracy and governance in South Asia. He also serves as a regional coordinator for Asia Democracy Research Network based in New York. Friends, while we engage in the conversation, at any point in time, you can post your comments or questions on the chat room. Please mention the name if you direct your questions to any particular panelist. We'll include them in our conversation. So let's begin this conversation. And if I may ask each one of you, what are your top two takeaways from the 2024 election results? Let's start with Dr. Vipul.
Let me say before the takeaways, I would say what is the political context in which these takeaways that I'm talking about become so important, and why we are talking about just another election in India. You know, the importance of this election is the political context of this election, and that is this election was fought in the backdrop of a completely polarized media, completely one-sided media coverage, complete subjugation of all institutions of democracy, including the Election Commission of India, and also 100 times more money with the ruling party. I mean, there were raids of enforcement directorate, CBI, and all kinds of tax authorities, on the individuals and parties, which were the rival parties of the BJP. So in this context, we are talking about these takeaways. And my takeaway number one is that the invincibility of Modi, the right wing beacon of Indian politics who can do nothing wrong, that invincibility of Modi is shattered. And I think that's extremely important, personally for me, who works for the civil society and all the liberal democratic minded people, because there was some kind of a hopelessness setting in. That look, these guys, this politics is working, hatred is working, fear is working. So this probably there is invincibility of Modi. And by the way, Modi himself, his own vote share has come down, probably the lowest for himself and the lowest for any serving Prime Minister of India. Nobody has had lower than this, perhaps with the exception of Chandrasekhar. The
Mhm.
highest has been more than 70% for Rajiv Gandhi, and even for Nehru and Indira Gandhi, others in the range of about 50%. Modi himself has been in that range and suddenly is down to about 13%. So that invincibility is over, and thank God for that. And second is that the politics of fear and politics of hatred has taken a hit. There is no doubt about it. If for a very long time, it was just working. And as you said, Costa, in the beginning, that this government is depending on TDP and JDU, two regional partners. Now, what is so special about these regional partners, apart from the fact that they are in alliance with BJP? One, both of them have got significant amount of minority votes. They have in the past, as in this election also, they've been supported by Muslims at many places, unlike the BJP. And also, both of them are independently, kind of in their own way, they are regional leaders. And that regional politics, which opposes over centralization of one strong leader, that over centralization, that tendency probably will be over with this. And also, these leaders have been chief ministers, are actually serving chief ministers right now, which means that it will not be very easy for you to muzzle the opposition, to muzzle the regional parties, to break the regional parties as they have done, and also to arrest chief ministers. They have arrested two chief ministers, popular chief ministers elected with popular mandate. So I think those two takeaways for me, hit for the fear and hatred, and second is the invincibility of Modi is shattered.
Absolutely bang on, Dr. Vipul. Let me go to Mina. What are your key two takeaways? You have to unmute, Mina, please.
Yeah, most of us who respond to this election would be coming from where they are, right? So from where I can see, I mean, I would look at this from the broader perspective of the broad progressive stream, you can say. And I'm sure different people have different ways of, and of course, there are different ways of looking at this election, but looking at it from that point of view, from someone who works with labor and has worked with labor for many years, I think this election really showed the maturity of the Indian electorate. I mean, the kind of verdict they gave was surprising. And it's not the first time that the electorate has surprised us. I mean, the post-emergency Indira Gandhi election that sent people into total shock. Nobody even imagined that the electorate would do something like this. But it brings home again that maturity that the Indian electorate has. While agreeing with everything that was said here before, I couple of things I like to say. It's funny, but almost everyone, all the parties would say this is a very good verdict. I mean, the BJP, because although they are disappointed, they won. The Congress, they did not expect to see as many seats as they did. They're very happy. And Samajwadi, naturally, I mean, who knew that this would happen? I don't even know if Samajwadi knew. I have no, maybe somebody who's a journalist who's interviewed them in a more intimate setting to find out what was really in their minds. But yeah. So I think that we are in for a very India could not have formed a government just now. And I think that if they had formed a government, it would have been a disaster, and a disaster might have led for people, as I said, coming from a broader progressive stream. It would have been, I think, a disaster which would take many years, perhaps half a century to change, to find another alternative. It would have strengthened the right wing, which for most of us is a very difficult thing. We cannot function. Let me say that what this election could mean for us is breathing space, because the kind of controls that have been put on social movements such as ours has really made it very difficult for us to work, to organize labor or to do things on the ground. It has become very difficult. So looking at it from that point of view, I think that the BJP and Modi himself will step back from that kind of arrogance, from that kind of complete control that they want to have on the people, all the political processes, like you said just now, arresting prior, and complete impunity, and shamelessly so. I don't think this explains just that the fact that the press has been completely muzzled doesn't still take away from the fact that they are doing something that even the press has to report. You can't hide the fact that a chief minister has been arrested. So being able to do that is really shocking in anywhere in the world. And yet, all over the world, India is still, and Modi is still a friend. Very few countries would dare to criticize very strongly the prime minister of a country which represents such a large market, which represents such a great influence in the world. And this is not new. This is not a contribution of Modi or the particular government. I mean, it's over a period of time, India has become, and it is also now the most populous country, it has become a force. So we in India who are fighting a government like this, and that's what we have been doing, it's very difficult because you don't get support from democratic rights movements very easily, or from the UN. UN does take positions. The UN takes positions. The UN residence was threatened with dismissal from the country. Leave the country, she was told. Mm-hmm. I mean, this I know. I don't know whether it was in the news, but that was Amnesty International. Shut them down. Let them leave. Greenpeace, shut them down. So this sort of thing, I hope, will change. At least that much.
Thank you, Meena. Let me go to Ruhi. Ruhi, what are your key takeaways?
Thank you, Kaustubh. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a contrarian stance because, well, why not? What good is a journalist if one doesn't take a contrarian stance? This is my first takeaway. It wasn't the takeaway immediately after the elections. It's a takeaway, once one has sat back, thought about the elections a little bit. So I traveled to about 6-7 states quite exhaustively. And when you sit back and sort of add that up to what the results have been, my first takeaway would be my fear that we are overreading the verdict, right? I think what has happened is we've become so used to living in extremes. One extreme is where the Congress shrunk to such a dismal 40 seat plus in 2014. And the other extreme is BJP's hubris and rhetoric of 400 plus, that 400 par. Now, if you look at it from those perspectives, then yes, Congress jumping to 99 seats seems spectacular. And BJP down from 303 to 240 seats looks like a major loss of face. However, if you look at it from a more clinical perspective, from the larger context of Indian politics, the picture looks a little bit different. And I'll tell you why. Because Congress, at the end of the day, is still a pan-India party. It's the only other national party besides the BJP. And Congress, despite 3 elections, is still at 99. That tells us something. The BJP has come back, even with a reduced mandate, into power. Can you say it is a mandate decisively against the BJP? No. 240 seats is not small for a third term in power. When was the last time that happened at the national level in India? So I think we are sort of overreading the verdict in a certain way. And also the difference between the single largest party, which is the BJP, and the second largest party, which is the Congress, is 140 seats. That's still huge. So I think somewhere down the line, because we've been living in extremes and because we've seen the Congress at such a low and the opposition at such a low and the BJP touch such a high, that this verdict seems like, you know, a euphoric verdict. But has India voted against majoritarian Hindutva politics? I would say no. I think we are overreading it when we say that. The Indian voter, let's not forget, is inherently a majoritarian voter. It's the same voter that with gung ho has been voting for Modi despite what happened in Gujarat in 2002. With gung ho has been voting for the BJP despite its history. BJP's staple is communal politics, right? I mean, Modi or no Modi, BJP has risen on the back, riding on the back of communal politics and Hindutva. And voters have constantly voted for that. In this election, the vote has largely been about issues that affect the voter. In terms of inflation, if you're unhappy with inflation and unemployment, then you don't vote for the BJP. If you're just bored of the prime minister, and if you're irritated with the arrogance and the hubris that this government has displayed in terms of his brazenness, but I am not sure that this is a vote against Hindutva per se. I don't think I have always said that I don't think the voters were voting for Hindutva, and I don't think the voters have voted against Hindutva. So I think that is a little bit of a takeaway for me. The second takeaway is that state leaderships are very important, and I think we got so consumed by this Modi persona, and the BJP largely got so consumed by this Modi persona that everybody forgot that there is a limitation to one leader being able to get you votes repeatedly. And I think that is something the BJP should also learn, and that's something any party should learn going forward. It's something the Congress had learned in the past: over reliance on the Gandhi family, not empowering state leaders enough, trying to play games within the party, and the Congress learned its lesson. And the same thing the BJP has to learn as well. Because see, if you look at the pattern, so there are two kinds of Modi's popularities in two phases, I would think, right? Or three phases rather. One phase is where in states where he was not particularly popular earlier, where they've done well, like Orissa or Telangana, correct? One is where in states where Modi's popularity had peaked earlier, which is the heartland, even states like Assam, etc. In those states, in some states like UP, one would say it's probably declining, and in the other states it's plateaued. Now, in these states, if you see, where has BJP done well? Madhya Pradesh. Shivraj Singh Chauhan was a hugely popular leader. A lot of vote that went for BJP went in his name because, you know, even though he was not chief minister, he was still leading the campaign for the BJP in the state. He has a strong hold over the organization, and the BJP did exceedingly well there, 29 on 29 seats. Assam. Again, if I keep the problematic polarizing rhetoric of Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma aside, he has a strong hold over the electorate and the organization. NDA doing exceedingly well, 11 on 14 seats. To give an example of states where it has not done well, Rajasthan. Clearly, Vasundhara Raje Scindia was not going to help the BJP in this election, and she didn't. And she has good reason not to want to help the top leadership. And the chief minister happens to be a very, very weak a leader in the state. Another state where the BJP hasn't done well, Uttar Pradesh. Now, Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath has been very unhappy with the way the BJP or the top leadership pushed its way through in the state. We know it from reliable sources that he was very unhappy with the choice of at least 30 to 35 candidates. He did not. He thought the top leadership was trying to impose its wish and its will on the Uttar Pradesh, BJP, as well as the RSS was also unhappy. Imagine the RSS also being unhappy enough to want to sit out an election. So in states where the state leadership is either not strong or has not cooperated with the top leadership, the BJP has done badly. So going forward in Indian politics, even if tomorrow we have another Narendra Modi, or even if tomorrow Congress comes up with another big leader, any party, one must always remember that state leaderships are very important, because at the end of the day, politics in India is within the confines of a federal structure, and one should not forget that one size fits all will not work. Like Narendra Modi cannot be as popular forever in Assam as he will be in Rajasthan. These states need their leaders, and voters will look at the immediate leaders.
Thank you, Rui, for this alternative perspective. I think the last point Vipul has also touched upon the federal structure of not only the governance but also the politics, and therefore importance to be given to the regional leaders as well. Let me go to Niranjan. Niranjan, what are your key takeaways?
Thanks, Kaustav, and thanks, Ichal, for organizing this. I think very fascinating sort of takeaway from some of my co-speakers. I would not like to repeat some of them. In fact, I would have actually spoken what exactly people said. But I have actually a couple of things to add on. One is, I think, this election results, while it's very complicated, it cannot be just, said in 2 minutes. But one thing is very clear that it the result clearly portends for a radical realignment of, Indian politics. I think that dominant party system, which we had seen, for last 10 years, is probably has reached its, I would say probably it has peaked. That largely because of the Modi phenomena, brand Modi has also peaked. And the Hindutva variant of politics, that we had seen for last 10 years in a more radical form, although it started much before, has also peaked in some way. So this will have an impact in terms of, what some of my co-speakers also said, in terms of bringing a new balance of power in the politics, where the opposition, despite Congress may have 99, but it's a new Congress. It's not same Congress that you had seen, for last 10 years. Or Samajwadi Party, many of the parties. I think what they did in Uttar Pradesh is something probably we had not imagined a couple of months back. So it has brought new energy, new kind of, it's going to be a kind of new sides of resistance against autocratization, against, centralization of power or undermining democratic process or social justice process that last 10 years we have seen. So you have now, this election has opened the new sides of, resistance and, protest or contestation, which is generally healthier thing for a democracy. So our hope is alive, and there'll be more such, sort of realignment, as we progress, because it's a coalition government. It's not going to be the Modi government, in some sense. It's going to be NDA 3.0. That's number one. Number two is, I think this election is a lesson in many ways that never take voters for granted. We saw that, with, Modi brand of politics, where, 400 par and all that kind of thing, with undermining, every state institution, and you taking over the media and all other, money bag, everything at your disposal, propaganda machine, you had most gigantic electoral machine at your disposal. With all that, what people said, you still, fell short of, 272. So that itself shows that, voters have actually exercised their, judgment. What somebody said, maturity of the voters has clearly come out. Their wisdom cannot be just, dismissed, that they will be, what Ruhi also said, that they're just, Hindutva voter, or, people just come and vote because they love their religion or love their temple. So they judge also. So I think localized issues, these things have come out prominently, and also local leaders have also asserted. So we have also seen that at the center, where BJP, was humbled, Modi was humbled. And we saw also that in some states like, Odisha and Andhra Pradesh, where you had two chief ministers who had also centralized powers, to a great extent. Navin Patnaik, with all, his great contribution to Odisha, was also very centralizing figure. In Odisha, there was nothing called media freedom, or civil society in many way also squeezed. So in a sense, it was all about the state power. Same thing also in Andhra Pradesh. I think there also voters have also spoken, in a sense that they also didn't like the same kind of version of it. They also wanted change, what we have witnessed at the center. So I think these two takeaway I have at the moment, but I'll add on many things as we move on.
No, thank you, Niranjan. I think all the four panelists have touched upon the issues at the state level, and the way the local issues, local leadership, regional aspiration, all these have sort of played out in the result. So my second question to all of you would be that what explains the results in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, which went in favor of India coalition? And similarly, the results in Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh that favored NDA. So let me go first to Vipulji.
Let me start by saying that I will. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I can start by saying that I have a little bit of a divergence with what was said earlier. I mean, I just want to re-emphasize on the point of the political context that I mentioned earlier. I believe, I agree with almost everything you said, Ruhi, because you are a field reporter. You have, feet on the ground, and you've seen it much better than many of us. What happens, what would have happened if the opposition had money? If Congress party's accounts had not been frozen, the political parties, I mean, I work for two organizations, Common Cause and ADR. I'm a trustee of ADR. And a lot of people come to us and they've been saying to us that the donors are scared of giving money to the opposition parties and all opposition parties. If the media had done 10% of its job, and I'm saying that with full responsibility as somebody who's worked in media in several countries, that if media had done even 10 or 20% of its job, the situation would have been very different. If people in different parts of India and North India also had known what the journalists were actually seeing, that the electorate is turning, that was not coming out. And the framing of issues was such that Manipur was no event. Nobody was discussing absolutely egregious events in Manipur. So, Sandesh Kali became very big in West Bengal. Once sexual harassment becomes extremely big, it's discussed, for 4 hours, 5 hours. Another sexual harassment in Karnataka is not even discussed so much. It comes out in newspapers, etc. So we are seeing if the media had done its job, I think it would have been different. And if the in intelligence agencies, CBED, CBI, ED, and tax authorities were not misused to this extent, and the fear was not so much. I believe that against this backdrop, against this political context, this result, even those 99 seats, I mean, I have nothing really in favor of Congress in that sense. I mean, we are the organization which filed the case, the public interest litigation of 2G and coal, which finally probably had a small role in bringing down the last government. And we also believe a lot of things that we are complaining about today were actually started by the Congress party. But at the same time, they have taken all the entire game such new heights that it's impossible, for anybody to. I mean, I was surprised that people were still fighting the election. They were standing there. And yes, I agree that people have not probably voted decisively against Hindutva everywhere. But wherever they have, I think this card was overplayed. People feel that this card was overplayed. And that is why I agree with Meena that it is a respite and a deep relief, sense of relief for a lot of people, and not just the liberal Democrats and journalists like you and me, but it is also for those, who have seen this politics on the street. This is, there is no doubt that Congress has gone up only by about 3%, countrywide. Or, BJP has come down only by maybe under 1%. But the devil is in the details. When you see the details, you realize that many places, a large number of seats, say there were about 151 seats where BJP last time got more than 20%, overwhelming response. The winning margin was more than 20%. 25, 30% at places, 4.5 lakh, or 4.5 lakhs, 5 lakh vote margin. That has come down from 151 to 77 seats. Now, this tells us something about Hindutva, working or not working. And the victory margin in places where, even in UP, Himachal, Haryana, has significantly come down. There is no doubt that, I mean, there was so much that the last time these people had got, and that was also on the back of Pulwama and what followed. So there's a complete kind of nationalistic sense. But yes, since you asked specific questions about these states, in Rajasthan, UP, and Haryana, this issue of Agniveer, that is the recruitment of the lowest level of the armed forces, that played a very big role. This was the place where the farmers' education took place. The farmers' ire was clearly there. The unemployment also became an issue in these places. And of course, in some parts of India, at least after half the election was over, when there was too much of boastful talk about we are going to get more than 400 and we'll do pretty much as we like, then this question came that they will perhaps change the constitution. And some of their own leaders were going out saying, of course, we will do that. So they had to pay for that. In Maharashtra, I think people saw what happened. It became real versus fake. The parties were broken. I mean, they were broken in a ridiculous way. What do you do? ED and tax authorities, they go and rape people until kind of they resign from their party. I mean, this was what I'm told was going on there. So in Maharashtra, it became two NCPs and two Shiv Senas. And the question became which is the real one and which is not the real one. So I think the situation would have been more dramatic, I would say, if the media and the misuse of authorities and all those things and money power was not so much loaded against the opposition. West Bengal, I think a lot of people have discussed. It's very difficult to. It's a complex area, but I would say that the anti-incumbency vote, which would have gone to BJP against Mamata Banerjee and her TMC, actually went to the other dispensation, which was Congress and the CPM, and also the polarization of the minority vote. And one must talk about it because whatever they say, their victory actually has a lot to do with the concentration of minority vote on one side, and that was decidedly for them. Tamil Nadu is something to worry about for anybody who believes that Dravidian politics is forever. It's not forever, it's on the decline. Dravidian politics, probably if BJP had gone with AIADMK, it would have seen perhaps one more seat or some more distinct. But what they've decisively done is that they have got a very good, performance for a political party alone, and that to a non-Dravidian party. So I think that's a lesson for everybody. You see, Karnataka, we have somebody sitting in Bangalore. Probably she'll tell us better, but I think Bihar and Karnataka are similar stories in at least one sense that BJP created better alliances in both places. I think the caste alliance that everybody is now talking about, I have limited understanding, but I'm told that first time in 3 decades that the Vokaligas and Lingayats came together to a large extent, not entirely, but to a large extent, and voted. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong. Bihar, I think they got Chirag Paswan and the scheduled caste votes and even the SC, ST, and the extreme backward castes, and you see that impression in the cabinet formation also. Out of 4 cabinet ministers, 3 are from this combination, SC, ST, and extreme backward caste. So I think all over it has been a mixed thing, but at the same time, I mean, it should not be underestimated. It is not another election. This is an election which is showing that India is probably, not liking, at least I'm not saying, rejecting the kind of Hindutva politics, but it's not liking that overplaying of Hindutva card. It's not probably working. Probably it will not work. If what has worked with it, it's a huge party. They do out of 24 hours, 23 and a half hours, they just do this elections. The Prime Minister of India, look at it, Prime Minister doesn't go to sleep. वो तो आराम ही नहीं करता मुझे लगता है इलेक्शन ही करता रहता है एंड मे बी 8 घंटे में सपने में भी when he's dreaming of elections. So this is a party which is an election machinery, and you get 100 times more money than others, and you deprive others whatever is coming their way. you know. So, I mean, show me one government in India which does not make money out of, the politics of land and excise policy. And I'll show you 2 BJP chief ministers who are doing this. but at the same time, you selectively go against some people. Of course, all politicians they have a lot to hide, but I mean this selective misuse of the machinery, etc., is breathtaking, and I think that has been probably, if not rejected, that is not being liked.
Thanks, Vipul. Let me go to Ruhi. Ruhi, you have already touched upon this issue, but if I may ask specifically, how do you explain the result in Odisha, and also to some extent in Karnataka? I think Vipul has touched upon that point as well, but I want to hear your perspective on that.
Right. Very quickly, I'll just respond to what Vipul said. I think one, media has become an easy punching bag for everybody. I think everybody forgets that media is not a homogeneous unit. What has brought bad name to the media, and I try and tell this to everybody I come across, is TV media. Television media has really ruined the reputation of media in India, and quite rightly so. I don't watch TV channels. I really cannot put myself through that torture day in and day out, and the kind of very brazen pro-government stance that they take. But print media, if you notice, newspapers are largely okay. I think it's very unfair to brush media in the same stroke. Two, I don't believe that
Gaelic
voters.
jargon.
No, see, there are exceptions everywhere. You cannot. There are aberrations everywhere. That way, nothing is pure, right? I mean, that's just anyway. I was making a larger point. Two, I don't think voters vote based on what the media is saying or showing. Indian voter is very, very intelligent, and as Veena mentioned earlier, very, very mature. She or he knows what is due to them and why she or he wants to vote for a particular political party. It's very transactional, very pragmatic, and hence I don't think the media is typically influencing the Indian voter as much as the media also likes to believe it is. I don't think it's influencing that much. Three, again, on the Hindutva point, I would say that I think it's too early to rejoice about this being a vote against Hindutva. I don't think voters vote for Hindutva. They vote for what they get on an everyday basis. And similarly, I don't think they voted against Hindutva. They've again voted for things that are annoying them or irking them on an everyday basis. I'll give you a very small example. Assam is a state, it's just a state with 14 seats, so nobody talks about it enough. Today, BJP's, I would say, even more rabid chief minister than Yogi Adityanath is Himanta Biswa Sarma. He is very, very polarizing. There is a lot of communal rhetoric that happens there. There is a lot of toxicity in his speeches. And as I said, I would say it's even more than Yogi Adityanath, more than a saffron-clad chief minister. So you can imagine the extent of Hindutva polarization that he tries to do in the state. And yet in that state, the BJP has done well. In a state which has never been communal, Assam's struggle has been an ethnicity struggle. It has been about an Assamese versus an outsider. So in that kind of a state, if the communal rhetoric is not going against the BJP and the BJP is doing well, it goes to show something about how the voter is voting for what he or she is getting on an everyday basis and not for Hindutva or against Hindutva. So these were just 3 points I wanted to say in response to Vipul. To come to your point, see, I think in various states that you've mentioned earlier in your question, there are various reasons, right? It's different in different states. For instance, in Maharashtra, the BJP really messed up on its alliances. There was no need to go around breaking so many parties, and very clearly, the people's sympathy and the people's affiliation was towards Uddhav Thackeray, Shiv Sena, and Sharad Pawar's NCP. And the BJP totally messed up by breaking these parties and going with the wrong allies in that state. So I think Maharashtra was a case of very, very bad alliances. And similarly, in Karnataka, I think the alliance worked. I think, as Vipul also pointed out, Bihar is a state which really how Nitish Kumar always manages to keep himself relevant is a mystery. He's like the phoenix. Suddenly, when you think he's down and out, he rises again. So it's just one of those mysteries. Rajasthan, again, I say the BJP did not do well. No state leadership, very badly handled by the center. The state has been very badly handled. There is a limit to Modi. I will continue to say that Modi ke naam pe kisi ko bhi vote pad jayega phenomenon is over. There is a limit to that for any leader, which is why in states like Rajasthan, the BJP did badly. In states like Madhya Pradesh, the BJP did well. So it's a question of state leadership. In Orissa and Telangana, I haven't traveled to Orissa, so I don't think I can speak as authoritatively as Niranjan can. But I will tell you about Telangana. I think what happened in Telangana was that people were distinguishing very clearly between the center and the state elections, right? And they see the BRS as not having any stake in in national politics in the central elections, which is why I think which is why the Congress did well, but the BRS didn't do well at all. It's not as if the BRS doesn't have popularity. KCR still remains a very popular leader. And I would say that anti-incumbency against the Revanth Reddy government on the ground is already setting in. People are already regretting not voting for KCR. But yet, when it came to the Lok Sabha elections, it was the BJP and the Congress which did well, because people are differentiating between state parties and central parties, and state elections and central elections. West Bengal, well, I think Narendra Modi and Mamata Banerjee are competing on two very similar grounds: welfare and women. Both have these strong points. Modi always tries to play on these strong points, and Mamata Banerjee has the exact same strong points. And obviously, she knows her game better in her home turf. She knows, I mean, she's very popular. Her schemes are very popular, so she obviously knows the game better than the BJP does in her home turf. And you mentioned, Vipul, I think, mentioned the right point about Muslim vote consolidation as well. I think overall, if you look at India, the Muslim vote has really rallied behind the Congress. I think that has helped the India alliance a lot. It has helped the Muslim vote from not splitting. It has very, very strongly rallied behind the Congress, because it's realized that there's any hope at the center against the BJP. Voting for these smaller parties who are not in a larger alliance with the Congress will not work. And across states, the Muslim vote has voted for the Congress has rallied behind. Just look at, for instance, just look at Assam's Dhubri, which is Badruddin Ajmal's home turf. My God, a Congress leader won from there with a huge margin of 10 lakh votes. It's unthinkable. Nobody thought Ajmal would lose Dhubri, by such a margin. It's really his gad, as they say. But the Congress did so well in the state because the Muslim voter is very, very strongly rallying behind the Congress. And that's a good sign for the Congress. It's a very good sign for Congress's revival going forward. I don't know if I've missed any state. I think Uttar Pradesh I touched upon earlier as well. There are issues. There were issues with Agniveer. There are issues of unemployment, no government vacancies. But I think a big issue is the RSS sitting it out. And also the chief minister, I would say, not cooperating fully at all, because he was very unhappy with how the central leadership was working. So I think various states have various different reasons as to why the BJP did not do well. And again, the overarching reason, let's not forget, Narendra Modi is not invincible. Narendra Modi was never invincible. It just had to take a better strategy by the opposition to put up a better show. I don't think anybody is invincible. And I really think a leader is popular till as long as his popularity has some logic. I think Narendra Modi's popularity has started losing logic because of the kind of hubris that his government had displayed.
Thanks, Ray. Let me go to Meena. And since you are sitting in Bangalore, maybe if I can specifically ask about Karnataka, and since you are from Mumbai, then a little bit of Maharashtra stories. You have to unmute, please.
In too many meetings and moderating it myself. So, one thing I wanted to say, because it's an interesting discussion, and the points that Vipul and Ruhi have made, I think we are coming to some interesting points from that discussion. One is that Hindu and Hindutva and I feel there's a difference between the two, and I think we should make that difference. India is Hindu, predominantly so. But it doesn't mean that they would always support everything that a party that speaks in the name of Hindu might do or say. My family, and I'm sure many of our families, we have a lot of people who are very, very, very Hindu, and those of us who are Hindu or those who are Muslim. We have a lot of people who are highly religious in our families, and we know how they think, right? But
Vastav has invited only Hindus.
Sorry?
Vastav has invited only Hindus to speak.
That's a problem, yes.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So, but when you see the Muslim, the Hindu, the Hindu voter, let us say, they are not going to always vote as Hindu, right? And they haven't in the past either. And I don't think that even the election of BJP was only, the election or the victory of BJP, or before that, Vajpayee's BJP, was only because they were Hindu. Naturally not. None of us believe that. And the hate speech, like, talking about Muslims in that way, somehow people don't like it. Why they don't like it? They don't like it. It's not because they love Muslims. They don't. And I agree with Ruhi. It's not as if all of India has suddenly become very secular. They are Hindu, they are reactionary, I mean, how many rapes happen in India in a day? I mean, there's nothing to do with the BJP. I'm not saying that they represent rapists, but I'm saying that the cultural milieu that we have in India is what it is. We know it's highly reactionary, it's violent, it's patriarchal, it's casteist, and we know all that. And yet, there is a certain democratic polity that we all adhere to. And I think that's what is right now, that's what we are discussing. The second thing is that Congress, it's a very old party. But this Congress is different from the old Congress. Now, in most of the people from the 70s, from my generation, they've all spent their lives fighting the Congress, right? Fighting Congress policies, fighting the arrests of Muslim youth in the name of terrorism, what they did against what do you call it? Their anti-terrorist legislation, which was used against opposition. We know all these things. And yet, I believe, and I think the country does believe, this is a different Congress. What it will become later, we don't know. Indira Gandhi's was a different Congress. And this is a different Congress. And what it will do, we can only see, but it does represent something new. How far they will take it, what they will deliver on that is a different matter. But people have shown some kind of hope for that. And that is a positive thing. And I believe, and this is again, I'm kind of going out on a line here, and I'm glad there's nobody here to report on me. But I really believe that the Congress has taken over the left and progressive agenda. I don't think the left is anywhere on the horizon. They have really taken over there. So there's a lot of people from that too, because there's a very large section of progressive organizations working on the ground, and there's a progressive tradition. We have a history. Independence too had a very progressive traditions that kids come down to us. That is the tradition that today the Congress has taken. That has helped. And insofar as media is concerned, okay, I'll come to the states and I don't have much to say about that. I'm saying these things because a lot of people in this room are not very familiar, I think, with India. So we've given them a lot of information about the states, etc. So I just thought I would do a few things on an overview basis. And but I'd like to say something about Assam. I think we must not forget the citizenship issue in Assam. And I think the major reason why Assam votes is because they are very, very anti-Bangladesh infiltrators, what they call it. So that,
ma'am, just 1 second. I just need to interrupt there because I'm from Assam. It's my mother tongue. My mother is Assamese, and that's a misreading of Assam. Assam is not against any Hindu or Muslim infiltrator. It is against any kind of Bengali speaking. So that's always been the fault line in Assam. It has not been communal. In fact, the CAA is something that Assam has opposed. Right now, this current generation doesn't much care about it, but I think that's a bit of a misreading. As an Assamese, I feel that
it was communal.
But that's not why Assam is voting for the BJP. CAA is a non-issue. Nobody's voting for it. No, nobody's voting for it. People should vote against it.
When
sorry, please carry on. My Assamese passion flares up sometimes, so I'm sorry. Please carry on.
But anyway, I won't be discussing that in detail. But it's true, there's a difference. What they face insofar as refugees are concerned, it's also something that it's not a communal issue. It's not because of being Hindu or Muslim. I agree with that. But there is an issue on which they feel that the CAA, without that, would be something that they would support. They are quite passionate about it, as far as I can tell, because I go to Assam quite often. And that's one. And the other thing is, I mean, I would want the general impression that I have is that there seems to be a kind of anti-dominant party thing that has worked. So wherever there has been where BJP has been a dominant party, the vote seems to have gone against them, dominant party. And where they haven't been, it has been the opposite. And I think that needs to be looked at more carefully as to why that has happened. I'm not in the, I mean, for so far as I'm concerned, democratic and the fight for democracy for me is more a fight for labor rights and other rights. But I think the question of election is important, but not the only thing, right? Elections is one way of the expression of democracy, and it's one democratic right, the right to vote and to be able to change the regime. And it's very important for all of us. But at the same time, if we have a change in regime and nothing changes on the ground, then that doesn't make much sense, because unless we also have a democratic polity, and unless we constantly struggle there, on the democratic polity, meaning on cultural issues, which I think no party has really paid much attention to. And the funny thing is, even on patriarchy, the women's organizations would say the state is responsible. But who's looking at the things that are happening in the family, within the villages, within the communities, within the bastis? Nobody's looking at that. How will change come with that? And I think the struggle for democracy and the struggle for a good regime have to be, kind of extended. It has to be more contextualized, let me put it that way. Yeah.
Thank you, Meena. Niranjan, in the beginning of this conversation, you talked about Odisha, and you also talked about the sort of pride of Odisha played a kind of vital role, and that in a way sort of affected the result. What else has affected the result in Odisha?
Yeah, I think Odisha is a key talking point. I think I'll come to that, but before that, just one observation about the main question about Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan versus states like Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka. It produced very divergent kind of results, where the ruling party had upper hand in certain states and it lost in some of the bastions. So I think one has to look at. I think overall results are. I think it's an aggregation of state results, I would say. Uh, one has to really make a clear distinction. This election, 2024 general election was not elections like it's not a wave election. What we witnessed in 2014 and 2019. These are actually two wave election in which the personality of Modi or other factors like national security issues or anti-corruption movement that we saw in 2013, which affected the UPA government. Which ultimately clearly influenced the voters. And in many states, actually, people just went and voted out the regime, or in support, like in 2019 we saw. So this particular elections, it's kind of aggregation of state results, and each state, I think, except for a handful of states, each state has produced very different results actually, largely based on local factors, other thing, and brand Modi was in many way missing actually many states, with some exception probably of probably handful of states. That's one. Second thing, I think very interesting results. If you look at Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, or even Haryana, some of these states, I think, clearly indicate. If you look at the data and if you look at some of the kind of key points that have emerged, from the victories of some of the people, it clearly says, whether we accept or not. But the fact is that Hindutva consolidation, which actually reached its kind of peak under Mr. Modi, I think has plateaued. It has reached its peak, and I think the kind of thing that he actually managed, that creating that kind of sort of consolidation of Hindutva votes, and almost dismissing the minority votes, that he doesn't need actually minority votes actually, so making them irrelevant, has actually is bound to change. Because if you look at in Uttar Pradesh, in Rajasthan, lot of actually lower caste votes, a lot of lower, especially OBC, those non-dominant OBC voters, which had almost gone to the BJP in the last 10 years, have started actually coming back to parties like Congress, Samajwadi Party, and other thing. And some of the results are very clearly, if you see actually many of those Dalits actually in Uttar Pradesh have won with big margins on the Congress ticket and on the Samajwadi Party tickets, are actually a clear testimony that that consolidation of Hindutva, which had happened basically with the brand anti-minoritism, has actually reached its dead end, and that is not working for the BJP any longer, and that has an implication for national politics in time to come. And on coming to Odisha, I think Odisha produced a very different results. I think something similar like Andhra Pradesh, where the ruling party lost, where Sir Congress lost both Lok Sabha as well as Assembly. Odisha case, a lot of people are thinking that, it will be like Lok Sabha. Even I actually wrote a piece in Hindustan Times thinking that, it will be Lok Sabha seats. There will be a good number of seats that will go to BJP because Modi's may not be brand Modi may not be popular in many other states, but he was popular in Odisha, and that would actually help the ruling party. But it proved actually beyond my imagination that they swept 20 seats out of 21. So BJP. But assembly seat is where because for last several elections in Odisha, it has produced split kind of verdict. Lok Sabha seats goes to a lot of time to national parties or the thing. But assembly, Navin Patnaik was there. For 5 terms he was there. So assembly people, same voters used to vote for the Navin Patnaik. So this time I think a lot of things, pride of Odisha, that Mr. Pandian factor, that as a Tamil and other thing, I think that largely has played against the BJD because Navin Patnaik is still widely popular, but a lot of people thought his health is not good. He won't be there to rule. So obviously this gentleman who is an IS officer and he's from North Odisha, he will be running the government. And that actually was very strongly capitalized by BJP in many ways, Odisha, Asmita and all that. I think for a while, actually, a lot of people actually went out of their sort of mental, judgment of the thing and voted for pride actually. So I think this election you can't say it's like, voters exercise this thing in a maturity of the thing, but sometimes emotional factor, takes hold of your maturity. That's what I would say.
So if I stay with you, Niranjan, you talked about the consolidation of the Dalits, OBC, and minority votes, and people have also talked about the consolidation of minority votes. Other speakers have also hinted at that. Does it indicate a kind of support to the kind of social justice agenda brought by the India Alliance, along with a kind of the issue of caste census, the issue of fear of changing the constitution, losing reservation? Have they played a role in consolidation of SC, OBC, and minority votes? What do you think, Niranjan?
I think that's a very good question. It's definitely an indication that social justice plank, which had taken backseat for last 10 years, and your religious majoritarianism, Hindutva, those kind of things which were dominating. Although a lot of economic, other infrastructure, other things were happening, but it was a lot of time actually. What we used to hear is about Hindutva, majoritarianism, Hindu pride, and all that. I think it has taken a hit. And social justice plank, a lot of civil society activism on whether it's on issues of environment, climate change, many things were affecting people's like, daily wager and all that, their protection. Those things are, I think, back in the menu, especially because you have a coalition government and coalition partners, especially those two key coalition partners, Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu, they are not going to take this Hindutva thing, because they are also people who have been playing social justice plank and minority card also very well, like someone like Chandrababu Naidu who has been advocating reservation for Muslim. So in a sense, social justice is back in the menu. And second thing, most interesting thing is that it is a coalition government where I think there'll be the politics also suddenly becomes competitive. The space opens. The democracy, thing that we thought actually it is in the cold freeze, kind of thing because, institutions have taken hit and, kind of climate, environment and polarizing kind of tactics, which, anybody who raises the voice of dissent or other thing was, called anti-national other thing, that also will actually take some kind of, backseat because I think the space that has opened will be galvanized by a lot of the civil society people and also an opposition, which has, got a lot of energy and, sort of, I would say positive vibes in this particular, 3 months exercise will actually take it forward. I think you'll see that in parliament, you'll see that on the street, you'll see that actually even in the media room, you'll see also a lot of institutions which will also take up social justice and, causes of, minority under trials, people who are serving in the jail or, for nothing. I think their causes, their voices will be heard by some of these institutions which had actually been not playing their role.
Let's not also forget that Nitish Kumar was the first one to initiate the caste census, and therefore, let's see how he plays out in future. Vipul, what do you
Absolutely.
think?
Yeah, I think caste is there. Caste is also a proxy for inequality in Indian society. It is deeply unequal society, both socially and economically. So caste all the time is not that one vyavastha, but it is also a proxy for fighting against inequality. So people manifest their issues in various ways, and one of them is caste. They perhaps, it's like as the polity becomes more and more mature, then probably caste will become less important. But right now, if you are a weaker section, if you are a, I work with ADR, and we worry about one thing. Why do people who are criminals win so easily? Then second question is, why do criminals win so easily when against them there is somebody who's obviously not a criminal? Even then a criminal wins. So we realize that there is a lot of protection people see in their leader. And if you are both a strong leader in your slum and you're also the caste leader, you are my kind of man. I'm going to vote for you. Your women's vote is for you, everybody's vote is for you. Nobody's looking at the larger picture. I mean, I'm worried because of being poor about my issues. Who will, I mean, if it is an issue which directly affects me, like Agniveer, etc., the army recruitment, etc., then probably I'm more worried. So I think in that sense, so the two things. One is the caste, the social justice agenda, and the other thing is the Hindutva agenda. I mean, coming back to each other, they are like antidote to each other in various ways. Because the Hindutva politics also tries to unite Hindus. Come together as Hindus and let us fight the other. So in that sense, I think the politics which has been nurtured for the last 10 years, textbooks, things have gone into, you have redefined history, you have done all kinds of appointments at all kinds of places, so all that is also there has been politicization of the security forces and the police on communal lines, which is extremely dangerous for the country. So once again, I mean, earlier there used to be allegations that, oh, so and so chief minister has taken more constables of his community in the police force. You know, then it becomes the same thing as Hindutva. It comes back differently. Then you say we don't want minority, but the problem comes when they say that we don't want women also. So I think this divisiveness all around, I think it's this time somehow it has taken a backseat. That is my limited. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Meena, what is your reflection on these consolidation of Dalits and Muslims and OBCs and how it had affected the election result? Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yes, I'd like to address that thing about the social justice agenda, the social issues, whether they have come to the fore in this election, and I believe they have. Because during that whole Nyaya Yatra and the Bharat Jodo that happened, a lot of things, I mean, I know in my own organization, now, if we have 14 state units. I don't think there is a single state unit which did not meet the Yatra and hand over a memorandum, which was essentially on social justice. And the kind of interest that they took to sit down with workers, with the urban poor, because generally we work with the urban poor, sitting down and trying to, with the gig workers, for instance, sitting down and trying to make us a kind of what shall I say, a kind of a bit of the manifesto, to make sure that they are also represented. That exercise did happen. And that happening on the ground does have a lot of difference, does make a lot of difference. One of the major reasons why parties Yeah, by this party one, I mean, I think we should never ever forget that people contact that happened during these yatras, that made a huge difference. Forget everything else. They believe that this person will listen to us. That did happen. And whatever the politics may be, I mean, people write all kinds of things in their manifesto, and nobody quite believes it that they're actually going to do it. But when you go and speak to people on the ground, they believe, okay, maybe I will have a say in this. That's been a very important thing. And a lot of the feedback that came to the yatras was about social justice. And people believe that this will happen. And I think that the fact that this party did not have money, that also worked a lot in their favor and at a moral level. This party is fighting without money. Yeah, people knew that. They knew that. And that helped also because they felt the sense of injustice. On the ground, I know that this happened. I'm really talking about the experience of the people who had interacted with the yatra, because that's something I know about. And whether or not the consolidation of the Muslim vote, yes, naturally, any consolidation helps. I don't believe there has been a consolidation at the caste level, at the level at which we think. But yes, consolidation. I mean, how would it not happen? Every day in the papers, you are seeing that Muslims are like this and they will do this and they will do that. Even if they like somebody in the area who is a BJP candidate, they will not vote for that person. Even if that person is doing good at the level of their basti, they will not vote for that person. So I think that this election has changed things for both the Congress as well as the BJP, and we will see a different polity insofar as the next election is concerned. And I hope and I think that they will come to the social justice agenda. They will come to justice and people's issues rather than fighting about religion and things only.
Kaustubh, can I just make two small points? Yeah, one is about the money. Money. It's quite easy to say that money perhaps may have helped them that they're so poor. The fact is that when they're choked of the money, it's like somebody being choked of oxygen. I mean, election guzzles money. You need and every time, like many of us journalist friends, Rui also said that we believe that what happened in Maharashtra was perhaps bad politics, bad decision on their part. They broke this party and they broke that party. No, the fact is that they wanted the opposition government to fall so that their money supply is choked. So they're very
Right.
careful. When the chief ministers are being arrested, the message is that your money supply is choked. And also don't forget this. Nobody has done this level of surveillance of people. There were Pegasus and there were all kinds of tools of surveillance on opposition leaders, particularly on opposition leaders, then on journalists. Then I'm told it has came out in the press that even against the judges and all kinds of people. So when obviously you will collect money, by telephone to somebody, go somewhere, if there is surveillance on, you're not reaching anywhere. And the second point that I want to make, so this tactics of arresting people is not just some vague dictatorial tendencies. No, it is a very, very well thought out tactics that choke their money supply and multiply our own money supply. Look, we were the petitioners in the electoral bond case, and we know fairly well how the money came. There was almost like the extortion racket being run by politicians in power and how they were collecting money. So I think this double game of money, making 100 times more money than the other political parties and choking the others' oxygen supply of money, that was one. And the second thing I would say about the media, it's easy once again to say that, it's just one sort of media which is doing it. Just look carefully, slightly more carefully, and you would see, the kind of advertisements which have been given by government of India. First, Government of India gave crores worth of advertisements on social media saying, Modi Sarkar ki guarantee. Now the same thing, after the election came into force, election was declared, you can't do the same thing. So the Government of India stops its advertisement and it is baton is taken over by BJP. And what it is doing? Modi ki guarantee. So from Modi Sarkar ki guarantee. So here is a ad campaign of Government of India which is mimicking the ad campaign of a political party. Now, this is egregious. This is like rank misuse of all. See, we have seen full page advertisements of Jayalalitha's picture and Nitish Kumar's picture and Kejriwal's picture and everybody's picture. Everybody has misused money, but this is a completely new level. Modi Sarkar, you say Modi, Modi ka parivar. Now there is an advertisement which is putting nationalistic signs and symbols. There are people in uniform, and Prime Minister Modi is wearing the army uniform, going with them on the border, and the family members of that person, little girl, my papa, Modi with my papa, father, mother, wife, and everybody saying that this is on Diwali he could not come home but the Prime Minister went there. So there's nationalistic signs and symbols in advertisements. So this is also media. So there was if we, most of it will come out later, when people do kind of scientific research-based studies on how certain people were projected. My money you are using to impress me. It's like the complete rank misuse of government advertisements and the money.
Yeah, there is an interesting question here, and the question is that the role of young people and the technology or social media, have they played any role in the election process? We remember 2014 election was almost like the role of social media was sort of phenomenal, and that continued, and that continued in a kind of quite opposite sense as well, when the opposition also started playing the same game that 2014 BJP played. So, Ruhi, do you have any reflection on that?
Yes. So, just one thing, I found a point that Meena ji made very, very interesting. She said it's not related to this question. I'll come to this question later. And she said that the Congress has taken over the left agenda and the progressive agenda. And I think that's a very valid point, and that's a very good development, because the left as a political force was losing ground and was losing sense of real politics. Now, with the Congress taking this agenda over, at least this agenda gets to live, gets a national voice, and gets some political backing, because that was the most important thing for this agenda. It had to get out of just being something that the left parties were talking about in, within their Politburo meetings or in press conferences. The Congress has now made this a national agenda, and that has helped the Congress in this election. So I think that's a very good point that Meena ji made, and I think it's going to be a positive development going forward. Coming to this question, see, obviously the BJP brought in this big social media game, right? And it was all hype in 2014 and a few years after that. But it's the same thing. Earlier, only a few countries would play cricket. Now more and more countries are playing cricket. And they have started beating the countries which were originally playing cricket. I mean, England is no longer just the best team, the only team that plays cricket. So it's just one of those things. People would learn, the BJP just had to introduce it, or they introduce the idea of how important social media can be, and the opposition has picked it up. And why not? Everybody would pick it up. Everybody understands politics, and everybody has ways and means of understanding technology and social media platforms. And they do make a difference, because a smartphone is something that a lot of people, even in rural areas, have. Even if everybody doesn't have, a family will have a smartphone. A village will have people with smartphones. A colony, a locality will have smartphones. Someone sitting in a panwala shop, there'll be 5 people sitting watching something on social media on one smartphone. So the penetration of social media, because of the penetration of smartphones, has been extremely wide and has been extremely effective. And hence, yes, social media does play a very important role. And as I said, the BJP mastered the game, but now the opposition parties picked up. I think the Congress, the reason for Congress's performance going up by a sharp, seeing the sharp incline, was also how it used social media very strategically to send its message across, whether it was the Bharat Jodo Yatra or Nyaya Yatra or any other messaging that it was doing. And that's how it has managed to reach many more people. The amplification of messaging through social media is very strong, is very effective. And I think the opposition has also managed to do that, which is why everybody is investing and paying a lot of attention to social media today.
And also, we haven't come across a kind of serious study as yet to look at the spread of lie and fake news in this election. We are waiting to get those studies done. But it has also played some anti-democratic sort of way of spreading lies and fake news. Niranjan, would you please explain the point that you made? There is a question here. What did you mean by political realignment? If you could take a minute and explain this.
Yeah, I by saying that the election results portends kind of radical. I would say it's not just new, but a radical new realignment, which is actually going to take, what actually Meena also mentioned, in a sense, which started largely with Bharat Jodo Yatra. And a lot of people used to make fun of it, and they used to dismiss that this will not really make you win elections. And we saw in the TV channels and all that how people were dismissive and sort of making cynical kind of comment on the thing. I think if you look at the election results and many routes that this Bharat Jodo Yatra actually that followed, and you can easily see very startling result in many states actually. So I think that social justice agenda, which was missing for last 10 years, is actually slowly getting into the mainstream debate. And here, realignment means, basically what I mean, it's not just about the caste, coalition, which is, that lower OBC or low caste Dalits. They are actually coming back to the Congress, and some of the party that are actually advocating for constitutionalism or protecting reservation or fighting for the marginal community or the informal laborers or poor for that matter. So I think those things, they have found a voice. A second realignment, which is I think is more powerful, is that opposition, which actually before the elections, they had come together or the thing, but then, with Nitish Kumar, Mamata Banerjee, departing or the thing, because they felt that, they had no chance to defeat BJP or the thing, have now gained actually a new newfound kind of, confidence with this sort of thing. So you'll actually see a lot of these things, realignment will take place within the institutional setup, whether it's in parliament, in different forums, or at the state level, as well as at the informal. It could be labor, it could be agriculture, the farmers, it could be those worker, or even civil society NGOs, which have taken a huge beating in last 10 years. There have been thousands of their this thing have been cancelled, and even issues like climate change have been securitized completely with the national security of the thing. You can't even talk about those issues any longer. On environmental issue, on child right issue, you can't talk actually. Those things are actually been securitized. So I think there the spaces are going to open, and we'll see a new media space also emerge.
Thanks, Niranjan. Thanks. We have a couple of minutes left, and I know Ruhi has told us that she has to stop at 5:30. All of you have mentioned this, but just let me ask it again. Do you think that the result indicates somewhat sort of reversal of the democratic regression? And specifically looking at the independent judiciary, the role of election commission, role of media, role of civil society organizations, those who have aligned with RSS and aligned with the other Hindutva organization, and more importantly, parliament. It has also failed to a large extent to uphold the democratic principles. 1 minute to each of you. Let's start with Meena.
Sorry.
Okay, people, you have taken the. Go ahead, please.
Since you mentioned Election Commission of India, I mean, we had a small role to play in that when they were not declaring the polling number, the counting numbers, the Form 17C, we went to the court, we filed a PIL. And finally, the numbers came out. I mean, it's ridiculous. In the same way as the electoral bonds, when the State Bank of India was not giving out the numbers, we filed a contempt of court petition. And finally, they had to declare the results within 24 hours. So there was another petition which was filed by ADR saying that the appointment of the election commissioners and the chief election commissioner should be broad-based, should be done either under parliamentary oversight or by a broad-based committee. And we had a landmark victory from the Supreme Court of India. What did the government do? Government reversed this by bringing in a legislation saying that the third member will not be the Chief Justice of India, but a minister appointed by the Prime Minister. So I hope these things are being seen. I hope that the results will make these institutions turn around, judiciary and Election Commission of India, and all of us in civil society who are watching these institutions and the opposition parties. I think opposition parties have failed in their role. They have not raised these issues as kind of, as vociferously as they should have. So I think probably there will be the democratic regression will be perhaps reversed in some way.
Thank you, Vipul. Meena?
Yes, I think it's the beginning of, I wouldn't say, it's very difficult to tell about these things, how the forces align with each other, etc. But definitely, democratic space has widened. It has, more space is being created. Now, whether or not those NGOs who have been shut down in the name of FCRA, whether those who are being chased by the ED, whether Probir Purkayastha will be, the cases on him will be dropped, we don't know. We don't know that. It's not as if something that radical is going to happen. I don't think it will. But the beginning is very important. The creation of this democratic spaces is very important. Now, it's also up to us what we do with it. We can't say that now it is the job of India Alliance to increase that space. It's up to all of us. And I think those of us who are in civil society are seeing it like that. We are saying now, because before the election, there was one kind of strategy. Now, after the election results, we have a strategy of seeing how we can, for instance, we are talking about many people who have been fighting, as I said, the Congress all their lives. And so, there's this thing, it doesn't matter which government it is, everyone is the same. We have to fight that because it doesn't matter whether they're the same or not. Right now, we have to fight for the concept. We have to fight for our lives, so to speak, of the organizations. I'm not saying for our individual lives, nobody's going to get shot, we hope. But, those of us who are, many of our organizations, I mean, I don't want to go into details, and it's been a very, very bad time, let me tell you. People are not talking about it because they're afraid that if they talk about it, something more will happen, so they're not talking about it. But it's been very, very bad for families and the way that they have been terrorized by these.
Yeah, it's a kind of self-censorship as well.
Yeah, no, and nothing that you do can change it. That's the problem. You don't know what to do because you can't go anywhere. There's nowhere to go because all doors are closed. That is likely to change is what I feel. So, and I think when I say we, I don't mean just civil society, but I mean media, general people have to start talking about this. And I think, discussions like these are important because we also need to, I don't think this is a problem only of India, okay? I think this is a problem of Asia. So I think that Asia Democracy Network should really relate what's happening in India to what is the situation in Thailand, in Philippines, in all over the world. What are the lessons we can draw to build a democratic movements in these countries to create more space? Yeah, coming together is also important for the opposition, as Vipul was saying. The coming together of the opposition, the need to come together is definitely much greater because now they see that an alternative could be, India could be the spearhead of an alternative. That's there. But on the ground, how are we going to come together? How are we going to take up these issues, to think about strategies? I think it's important.
Thanks, Meena. Ruhi, your
I
last.
don't think that
Your,
I don't think Modi has become humble. Okay, I think that he will be more careful. I don't think that.
okay, okay. I won't ask that question then. Okay, Ruhi.
No, it's a very straight answer to your question. I certainly hope there is a reversal to the democratic regression we had seen. But I do agree with Meena ji that it's too early to tell. It depends on a lot of factors, how they play out. But yes, I think this government would need to certainly tone down its brazenness, because I think honestly from 2019 to 2024, the hubris, the brazenness was really crossing all limits. What they've done, just sending sitting chief ministers to jail, for instance. It's been extremely brazen in terms of how the policy decisions, just bulldozing legislation through both houses of parliament, not just complete disrespect for any kind of democratic tradition and for the opposition, complete disrespect for institutions that are so important for India, whether it's the Election Commission or the Enforcement Directorate or the CBI. I think the reflection should start with the Election Commission, honestly, because it hasn't covered itself in glory at all in recent times. So there has to be reflection, has to start from these institutions themselves. They have to find their voice a little bit, because now they know that it's not as if anybody is invincible. So I hope that trajectory, we are on that trajectory, and I hope this also will, I think I agree with Meena ji. I don't think Narendra Modi is the kind of politician to be humbled. But yes, I think he would realize that there is a limit to what he can do, and there's a limit to what he should do. Because he would think of electoral dividends more than anything else, So he would realize that it doesn't really pay very well to show this kind of hubris. But just one thing I would say in terms of forward-looking thing, I'm all very great that there is this opposition alliance which is done very well, but I think at some point the Congress needs to understand that to be a real challenger to the BJP, and to have a feasible government at the center, the Congress needs to jump from being a 100-seat party to a 200-seat party. And for that, the Congress will have to slowly start moving out of these alliances. It will need to go back to its space in states where it managed to win so many seats earlier to be able to form a government. Because, if we always have this opposition alliance, there will always be this question of stability versus instability on which the BJP will play. So
Right.
there has to be a case for the Congress to stop using alliance as crutches and go back to finding its space, go back to being the 200 plus pan-India party that can pose a real challenge to the BJP and become a fulcrum around which a stable government can be formed.
Thank you. Niranjan, your
I
last
think,
reflection.
I think my co-speakers have actually noted most of the things that I would have mentioned. Just one or two things. The hubris and the kind of arrogance in office, and then that kind of massive centralizations that we saw in the 10 years has actually created countervailing forces. Countervailing forces, I mean to say that, a lot of people, especially those opposition whom you demonized, day and night and, dismiss them, other thing, have emerged as challengers. Someone like Rahul Gandhi was, called as Papu, useless and all that for 10 years and all that, with all that, you have actually made him a darling of a lot of people. So in a sense, these countervailing forces, which actually largely come out for, kind of centralization, arrogance in office and all that, what Modi factor did, is now going to produce the kind of result that would be good for democracy. Number one, it will actually, because he doesn't have the numbers, he'll depend on the coalition partners of the thing. The signal will be actually, the signal will go to the institutions. A lot of judiciary, for instance, many of them, playing very safe game and all that, they're just making waiting game and all that. I think a lot of judges are going to be much more vocal. Same is also going to happen in the media space, because a lot of them were actually under pressure and under, kind of, because they were, a lot of them wanted to speak out of the thing, but they were, not. I think that space is also opening. Same also will happen in civil society, among the regional political party. It will also happen within the BJP. In fact, already you have seen, RSS chief has already sent the message, and within the BJP there will be, internal kind of, churning, and that kind of centralization which undermined everybody and made everybody as just irrelevant. It's not really going to work in a large party like BJP. So I think those things will be good for democracy, and I think in some way or other, I would say. Autocratization that we had experienced in last 10 years as a democracy scholar, I would say that it takes a pause, it takes a pause. But as others have said, it's not completely, going to disappear because Modi is still in power. BJP is ruling in many states, like 13 to 14 states. So you have those kind of, religious, cultural infrastructure are present there. Your Hindutva brand and their followers are still present there. So it's like a daily battle. So that contestation, that sort of fight, that ongoing battle for democracy, civic space, kind of, dignity that people need actually, need that to be earned and that to be really fought. So one should not take what Rohit said, kind of euphoric and, feel happy other thing before, again, that is snatched actually. That space is snatched. I think it's a battle ahead, but it gives a lot of hope that, that society by and large has awakened.
Thank you, Niranjan. I think we have done a fantastic job, given the complexity of India's election, and it's not only state by state, but also within the state, different forces acted in a very different way, and therefore capturing all those complexities in a 1.5 hour conversation is not going to be easy. That we knew, but all the four speakers, panelists, they have done beautifully, sort of captured the nuances. And as there is a hope, as all of you have said, going forward, but we cannot take this for granted. As Ruhi and Mina also said, that voters are matured, Indian voters are matured, they cannot be taken for granted, but also the behemoth that we see in BJP, that can also be taken for granted. So the civil society, media, they have to sort of remain cautious about this new development, and we need to continue to work at the grassroots level in order to mobilize pro-democratic forces to keep it alive. So thank you so much. Let me invite Mr. Ichal Supriyadi. Ichal is the Secretary General of Asia Democracy Network. Election is a favorite subject of Ichal. I mean, in his past incarnation, he has been associated with the UNFREL, which is the Asian Coalition for Election Monitoring. And you have seen perhaps most of the elections, not only in South Asia, but also in most of Southeast Asia. So Ichal, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation, grasped some of the complexities of this conversation. But here, I'm not inviting you to share your reflection, but first of all, thank the panelists. And if you want to add one or two readings, that would be fantastic. Ichal.
Yeah, thank you, Kaustu, for wonderful moderations. I would like just to express my gratitude, my respect, and thanks, my honor to Mina Menon. I think it's been quite some time after our last meeting in Kathmandu. People, always my favorite professor. It's been quite some time we're not meeting last year's, right? And of course, Ruhi Tewari is a new connections. But I really enjoy your analysis, and of course Niranjan Sahu and Kaustup, who always be with ADN all the time. I think I have two greetings, and doesn't want to be part of your dinner because some of the South Asian is at dinner times. But I just would like to highlight one things. The Indian election results was one of the most, almost everybody expecting something same will be happening, before June. But after June, I think everybody shocked with the result. This year is a lot of, we experienced a lot of bad election, but I guess there's a good win from India that probably that we really wanted to looking how the voters, the people resilience can vote differently despite all the political constellations, despite the throw all the money, massive media cooptations, manipulations, hawks, everything, but people showing that it's resilience. I think there's one biggest point that I would like to carry forward. I agree with the point that some of you express. The space is widening in India. if last year's during my visit, nobody knows what to do, but perhaps I'm going to visit India very soon, and I believe many attention goes to Delhi or some more part of India to looking to utilizing this spark to inspiring the rest of the Asia, because I agree many of Asian countries still under the similar problem like India. So I hope this is starting up of the conversations, and then I welcome you all, Mina, Vipul, Ruhi, Niranjan, to keep continuing this conversation. And I believe today is only 33 people signing up and looking our conversation. Perhaps for the next lesson learning, we can inspiring, we can bring more people. I think this is challenging and it's very good opportunity. India, learning from India, not only for South Asia, but for the rest of Asia. Again, I thank you all, the speakers and then moderators, and of course, Sabra, my colleague who already preparing this very well. By this, perhaps this can ending up our conversation, and let's continue bilaterally or probably by emails, by WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vichal. Thank you, Ruhi, Vipul, Meena, Niranjan, and Sabra, and all those who have been part of this
Thanks
conversation.
for
Thank you
excellent
so much.
moderation, and
Bye-bye.
thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you so
moderator.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.